Good night, everyone, and welcome to episode number 5 of Empowering Teachers for Success. I'm Amanda Edwin, educator, empowerment advocate, and host of this Facebook Live. This episode's topic is entitled Managing Teacher Stress and Administrators' Struggles, Her Insights, and Strategies. And to chat about this topic, I have with me, of course, an administrator. I have with me Mrs. Allana-Rae Ramkissoon, and I'm pleased to have Allana-Rae join me because we have been friends and colleagues in education for many, many years. Allana-Rae is a lifelong educator with experience that spans 3 countries and multiple levels of the education system. And she's currently an administrator at a private Catholic school in Charlotte, North Carolina. And of course, alongside her role as an administrator, like many of us, she struggles and juggles being a spouse and a parent. So welcome, Allana-Rae.
Welcome. I am so happy to be here. I am bringing you greetings, you and your listeners, your viewers from Charlotte, North Carolina. It's pretty cold, but you'll know a little something about that. So I'm not going to even venture to talk about the weather. So it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
We seem to be having some problems with Allana's internet. Allana?
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, she is actually paused at the moment.
Oh, I
can't hear you.
I don't know why. Can you hear me?
I'm just going to let her know that I can't hear her at the moment.
Okay.
I think it's a little bit better.
Can you hear me? Because right now I'm just seeing myself. I think it's a little bit of a technical difficulty. I can hear very well. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I'm back on. I just got booted out for a bit. Yeah. Okay. Technology.
Actually, I heard everything you said and I could see myself on my end. So it didn't look like there was a problem at all. But I'm going to just say again, welcome. Not welcome. I'm happy to be here. And I'm bringing you greetings from Charlotte, North Carolina. I was going to say it's so cold today that I'm glad to be inside, but I won't even talk about cold when I'm talking to you, Amanda.
No, not in Canada. No, we are north of the border.
All right. So for people who are in warmer parts of the world, you are just so lucky,
Oh, yeah,
but this is a very important topic. So I'm really happy to be part of this.
And I'm really glad you're here. I mean, I really want to get into, all before I've been looking at the educator, the teacher themselves and what they're going through. And I think it's important to know both sides of the coin in terms of the administrator and what that role is and what struggles you you and any other administrator will go through. And I'm glad you're here to share that with us tonight, because I'm sure there are lots of administrators, if they view this, will learn something from you, and they will be able to they will be able to feel a sense of collaboration and know that, okay, this is also happening to me. I'm not alone in this. All right. Excellent. So Allana, now we've been friends for many, many years. I wouldn't say how many. That would probably age us, but your experiences are obviously going to be different from mine because you have traveled you've been to Turks and Caicos,
right?
And now you've been in North Carolina, and this is all after having taught in Trinidad and Tobago for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So in education, and now you're talking about pre-COVID-19 and even in the era of COVID-19. Give us a little bit of what you have experienced as an administrator in your little, in your zone, your corner of the world.
Well, I didn't become an administrator until Charlotte, North Carolina, but everything that I experienced in Trinidad, which is my home country, Trinidad and Tobago, and the Turks and Caicos really prepared me because I was able to observe other educators and other administrators. So, and the other thing is, I had been an educator, so I had been on that side of the equation and had known all the things that affect teachers and was able to be use that experience both in from the Caribbean and from North America to really inform what I think my role should be. So we all know that the administrator's role is to manage, to be curriculum leader, to kind of nurture students and to set programs, but we never really get thoroughly trained in how to
I'm not sure what's happening.
manage emotions and how to manage the AR, the HR part of that. So you never really get
Oh,
that kind of.
internet seems to be dropping again tonight. Not
Oh,
sure.
it is
Mhm.
dropping. Okay, I can see you. Can you hear me?
I
Let's
can
see.
hear you now. I couldn't hear you a while ago, so you may have to repeat a little bit of what you just said because for some reason it went down a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, again, I'm looking to see if there's anything on my end, but I don't have anything else on but this. So um, I was just saying that having been part of the other side of the equation, the teacher for so many years, it was able to, to inform me. That experience was able to inform me on what I should be as an administrator. So I really started looking at, okay, we know that administrators have to be managers. We're aware of that. We know we have to be curriculum leaders, but we're never really fully prepared to be nurturers of the faculty and help manage emotions. The HR part of it is really not something that is stressed in your education. This is stuff that you learn going along the way. And it's up to you to go and get yourself informed and to use your counselors and so forth. So pre-COVID, you would pretty much have stressed your roles as manager, director, curriculum leader. In my case, I work at a Catholic school, so it would be spiritual leader. So you would kind of emphasize that. But now post COVID, or not post, in the era of COVID,
Mhm.
you really have to think of yourself as a nurturer. You have to think of yourself as a motivator in a different way, because teachers are going through so much stress, whether they are doing in-person teaching or whether they are doing remote teaching. The stress level is unprecedented.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, now there's no playbook for this. And as people know all over the world, we had our own challenges in the United States with a lot of direction from the top not being there when we needed it. So, that was probably the hardest thing to deal with. So you're now looking at yourself as someone who has to help manage emotions and help people to de-stress,
Mhm.
and that's a big responsibility.
Okay, so I know we had talked before, but in terms of facing your own anxieties and your emotional state of being, because you are the administrator, you have to take on a whole bundle of emotions. You're also coming in with your stressors. How do you feel prepared, coming into that kind of situation?
No, I did not. I have to tell you, we went home in the middle of March. We
Mhm.
were kind of thrown into it. And whereas we had the technology to actually do, I mean, it was challenging, but a lot of people just said, I'm going to do it and we're going to get to it and we're going to learn as we go. What we were not prepared for was dealing with your own stress
Mhm.
and then having to somehow remotely be able to deal with everybody else's stress. It's one thing to do it when you're in the building. It's
Mhm.
another thing to try and do it when you're just seeing people on screens, you know? So that was not done. The good thing is, um, at our house, we had a plan. I mean, we had a detailed plan as to if whoever got coronavirus, where they were going to sleep, where they were going
Right.
to
Mhm.
bathroom they were going to use, just like you'd have a plan for a hurricane or for a tornado or whatever. We did that.
Right.
And a
Mhm.
lot of people didn't think to do that. I also have to admit that I went through the first 2 weeks thinking that this virus was at my door and it was waiting for me. And because I was overweight, I was going to get it. So there's that stress. No, really, I have to be honest. That's why there were tears, there were all kinds of emotions. And I'm not generally an irrational person. So I don't know where this was coming from. Now, in retrospect, I know it's just because we had not been prepared,
Right.
not as administrators, not as people, not as teachers, and that's really what causes this chaos and this feeling of isolation and fear. It's
Mhm.
unpreparedness. Once we are prepared for something, no matter how awful it is, that helps you. And I had to get to the point where I didn't feel helpless anymore, where I felt prepared. So the same thing I had done at my home level was the
Mhm.
same thing I started to do, with the school, on the school level, and try to teach teachers how to
Right.
do that.
Yeah.
So that really was it.
And let's talk a little bit about balancing the needs of the students and the families and the teachers with the need for performance. Because we have a lot of teachers out there that will tell you, oh, they have been um, bombarded with
Mhm.
all of this information, all this work that they now have to do. And online learning is new for them. It's new for the families. It's new for the children who've not been exposed to it.
Right.
So how did you balance that as the administrator?
So, we're looking at the curriculum, we're looking at the time, and we're just wondering how are we going to get it done so kids are prepared for the next grade level. So we go rewind to March, April, May. How are we going to get it covered? What is it going to look like? And so you also are thinking, okay, we have all this work to do. So teachers started to schedule their day just like they would schedule it at school. And of course that didn't work. I mean,
Mhm.
you're in an uncontrolled environment at home. There's no structure, there's nothing. You can't try to have one class at 9 to 9:30, the next one. So we had to just, do away with all the structures that we
Gotcha.
had at
Mhm.
school and start to build a new structure and know that kids can only do 3 subjects in a day. I don't care what age they are, they can
Mhm.
only do 3 subjects. And that was hard for teachers because they felt inadequate, right? It was hard for me as an administrator because I felt, oh my gosh, my kids are not going to get this done, or and
Mhm.
parents are going to look to the principal and say my child knows nothing, or
Mhm.
did nothing. And the other thing was to also understand that this was not a part-time job for parents. This was a full-time job.
Full-time job.
You
Mhm.
can't tell a first grade student, just log into X program, and no, this is a job for the parent. So now we had to start saying, okay, where are we going to, where are we going to have some give?
Mhm.
What are we going to do? And so we had to sort all that out. And you had to, again, kind of, tell teachers it's okay, it's
Mhm.
fine. The expectations, let's let that go. You as an administrator have to let it go first. And believe me, it was hard, you know.
Right. Mhm.
And you just say, let that go. We don't want quality to be, any old quality, but the quantity, just let it go, and we'll plan for the students whenever we get them back, how to remediate or whatsoever. So you have to constantly be thinking of parents, what parents can do, what students can do, and what teachers are able to do. All the while remembering, and this was the key, that teachers had to teach their classes and then teach their
Their
kids.
own their own kids at home too.
Right. And
Mhm.
again, it's 100% as a parent, so all of these things had to quickly play into the equation. And
Mhm.
so you learn to kind of let's look at the things that are happening and let's balance that so that everyone feels like they can manage.
Okay. And is it like here where now we have for the meanwhile we have blended learning for some of the students? The parents have the option to choose either online or to choose in school, in person. We have a few that did choose the online.
Mm-hmm.
So teachers are now in the classroom doing both in person and online. And that's a struggle.
Not
It's,
only is it a struggle, there's resentment.
yes.
There's huge, big time resentment. The
Mhm.
teachers are glaring at you all day. I can feel it, like, when is this going to end? We did the same thing. Again, we're a private school. A lot of our school systems, public school systems, did not return to the classroom. So they had remote learning up until about October for most of them. And there were problems there
Okay,
galore.
we're having a little bit of a glitch again. I don't know why.
I'm seeing everything perfectly on my end. I hope your viewers are as well. You're back there. We're going to just give it, if your viewers can hear me, we'll just wait for Amanda to get back on. Amanda, I can see and hear you. Can you hear me?
Sorry about this. It seems to be that the internet is dropping.
Okay.
Yeah, the internet dropped again. I don't know what happened there.
Right. The same thing you're experiencing on your end, I'm experiencing on my end. I can see and hear me, and then you're dropping.
Right.
So
And we have no control.
yeah, I wish I knew, but
It's like COVID. We have no control over COVID, and we have the internet. I don't know. Today's bad. Yeah,
absolutely.
that's
So
okay. Mhm.
right. So I was saying that the isolation is really the thing that gets you, this feeling of isolation. But yes, as a private school, we made a decision, and I think it was the best decision we made to come back in person. But
Mhm.
we did offer um, a, a remote option. We call it the sustained remote option for kids who either had parents, someone in the home, or they themselves had an underlying condition that would make COVID-19 potentially
Both of them. Mhm.
threatening, right? And so people had to apply. So we are one of those schools that have the two options, and it is tough. It is the toughest thing, but if people prefer that to being home, again, the isolated feeling
Isolation. Hmm.
was not doing well for students and teachers. There were times when we had to actually go check on students when we were fully remote because we weren't hearing from them. And it just the feeling that, oh my gosh, what's happening?
Hmm.
And it was that, we have a lot of students in our school. My school is both elementary and middle, who are 6 and 7 years old, whose parents don't speak English.
Right.
So they can't jump on and teach them. So some of the times they just didn't know what to do. So we had to
Hmm.
actually make home visits, So it was a lot easier when we got back in. So while there was resentment for having to do two sets of work, two sets of planning, one for the remote and one for the in-person, I think in the end, teachers realized that it was still less stressful than not hearing from your students and not one, and so just the fact that we were back in and getting into a sort of routine, it's never going to be the same, um, helped, and it worked, and that resentment slowly turned to acceptance and then to appreciation. So
Well, that's good. That's a positive, right?
mhm, mhm.
Now, in terms of your school district, have they done any funding for materials for remote learning? Was that necessary? What kind of help did your school get? Or in terms of the district, I know you're private, but I'm sure you can probably speak to the
I
district
can.
level.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I can. And so I have to say, our school district is one of the biggest, the largest in the country,
Mhm.
Charlotte Mecklenburg. I mean, it's behind Pennsylvania districts and so forth. But it's really, Charlotte itself has a 1.5 plus million people, and that's just one city, not even the capital city. But so
Mm-hmm.
we've got a very large school district. They were not able to handle this as well as we thought. So they had funding for like technology and stuff. That was really good. But I don't know that they were able to get as many resources to their teachers and students that they, were hoping to. And certainly in terms of programs and online learning, they weren't able to get that up and running until quite late in the game. Um,
Okay.
so there were challenges there. I think our school district is so much smaller. We were able to manage it better, and the financial security. So while teachers were at home, they were paid, and every worker was paid. I mean, every janitor, everyone was paid
Oh, that's good. Mm-hmm.
to be able to do that. It with some school districts, funding was also made available so everyone could get paid, the bus drivers and whatever. So I think we did, a fairly good job in North Carolina with that. Also, most people have, state insurance, or in our case, private insurance that really makes sure that there are supports in there for mental and emotional health. And
Mm-hmm.
so you could actually access those things quite easily. I think back at the Turks and Caicos Islands and Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm not sure that those supports are there now.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly when I was a teacher there, that was not there. And that's another thing that an administrator now has to think very differently about.
Mm-hmm.
Are
Mm-hmm.
there supports there, and how can I work to get those things, and to let people know, yeah, it's okay to use it. People don't like to talk about their emotions.
They don't, and they don't, even though the supports are there, even for mental health or whatever problem they may be having, they are not open
Right, right.
to accessing those supports that are available for them.
You are absolutely correct about that. That's a challenge, but that's something that administrators now have to see as a must. And your role
Mm-hmm.
has now, to include that. How do I make sure that my teachers can access anything that's available
Right.
to support their mental
Now,
and
what did you coming into the whole? I know you said your employers asked you to come back because you were on your way to retirement.
oh yes, yes.
On
That,
your way to retirement, they asked you to come back and manage
mhm,
like navigate the school through COVID-19.
right. So
Tell me what you did coming in and taking up that challenge, because it is a challenge,
mhm.
and how you helped your teachers. What things that you did to help your teachers through this?
Right. So I had retired. I sent my retirement letter out to parents, to everyone. There
Oh
was a
my gosh.
search committee, all of that. And then March, we went home. And I think at that point, people still weren't aware that this was going to be a year-long thing. People thought, okay, we shut down coronavirus. Nobody thought at that point. I did, but nobody,
Mhm.
thought that we would be going through this for a whole year. So I immediately said, "Oh my gosh, what a terrible year for me to announce that I was leaving." I mean, I had a couple plans and so forth. And then when things really started looking like we're not getting out of this yet, the
Mhm.
Diocese of Charlotte said, listen, would you please consider at least navigating, it's a great word, this uncharted territory.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I agreed because I felt like I would not have been able to rest or enjoy my new job, knowing that somebody new and maybe inexperienced
That's right.
were
Mhm.
going to come in and not know what to do. And our school, again, as I said, we're not one of the private schools that sits in a affluent area. We really serve the students who are new immigrants, students who are looking for a small but spiritual type setting. Like, you and I went
Mhm.
to Catholic school, and that's what some people crave,
Right.
that
Mhm.
kind of setting. So we really serve those students. So what the first thing I did, of course, was my own self again. I had to get myself together and find my center. And then from that, again, make decisions along with the Diocese of Charlotte as
Mhm.
to how we were going to get through the year. So I was immediately put on a task force and came
Mhm.
up with this, full scale, detailed plan of every aspect of the school day under a COVID-19 um, sort of
Yeah.
plan,
Mhm.
so we put that together, and it really had from the time people arrive what the protocols would be: mask wearing, temperature checks, all through. And that really, so three things: get myself in order, decide to do in-person learning, and then get this plan together. Those three things off the bat set teachers on a path to
Mhm.
finding some semblance of normality, and
Mhm.
also to de-stress. Nobody is ever able to get that weight off their shoulders
Right.
completely, not while we're in the pandemic. But those were the first three steps that we took. And I
Mhm.
would advise people, if they have the option, now whether they are in person or not, just make sure everything is planned as far as the eye can see, so everybody knows what the plan is.
Mhm.
You have to radiate calm, and you have to radiate reassurance and that kind of thing. The next big thing was training for teachers.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
What is the panic? The one most effective training I did, believe it or not, was not on the technology, not on the programs. It was on COVID-19 and what to do if somebody in your family got it.
Okay.
People, that changed the game. And I sent you a link, I think via messenger, of the
Mhm.
doctor, the New Zealand doctor who had,
Yes, I got it. Mhm.
right, I mean, that went viral because she was like, you get COVID-19, don't panic, don't think it's the, and she walked you through every exercise, everything to do, what to take, what not to take, and that
Okay. Mhm.
kind of was a game changer. So I want to say the empowerment we talk about is giving everybody the knowledge, arming them with the knowledge and the tools to make sure that they are
Yeah,
safe.
I just dropped off for a bit. Mhm.
Mhm. All right, make sure that they are safe. Okay.
You're dropping off for a bit too, Alana.
Okay. I wish I knew what to do. I wish I knew
I'm
what
going
to
to
do.
blame this on the weather.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Do you have issues when you have your bad weather?
Hmm.
We are still live for those, if you can hear me, talking about an administrator's struggles and insights. So we're waiting on Amanda to come back on, or maybe if you are on the other end of this, you're waiting for me to come back on. But let's just wait a little bit.
Yeah, this completely dropped me off.
Oh, you're getting bumped off. Okay, that's what's happening
I
there.
got bumped off completely. That's no
So
problem.
I was talking, just kind of, trying to fill the space. So anyway, so those are the things. Now, if you're not in an in-person setting like we are, training is one of the things, but also, as I said before, kind of lower your expectations, even if you're in school. You
Hmm.
know, um, expect that teachers are not going to be able to handle all the stuff that they normally do, because let's face it, if you're in an in-person setting, there's so many restrictions that you cannot run the school day like you normally would. So this is rewriting the whole script, throwing everything that you know out, and people don't like that feeling,
Hmm.
you know.
Of the unknown. They want to know what's happening. They want a path. They want a structure.
Right.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
come up with your own structure. What do we want to do? There were lots of meetings, and some of the meetings were were in person in a large room where everybody's at a table, fully masked. Some of them were, although we were in the building, we decided, we wanted to, have the meetings where we were Zooming, just so that we could, take the mask off and be relaxed. And so just have what would you like to see? What would you like to do? What would you like to do? What would the lower school department like to do? Get people involved. So the more they talk, the better they feel. When they're home and we're having meetings on Zoom, there's like a time limit, and so you're just trying to get all the business stuff in, but have them talk about what they want to see, make a contract of some kind of how we want to feel, by the end of, October. What can we do for the kids instead of having a school fair, And again, as I said, lower your expectations as the amount of work and the amount of projects and a number of things. One of the things I told my teachers were cover all the big topics that a child absolutely needs for the next grade level first. And try to,
fill in the rest as we go.
As we go in. That's exactly it. And again, you give them permission to use a laid back approach, which you would not have done prior to COVID.
Yeah, it's tough in these times, right? And I know in one of our conversations you talked about doing something with your staff that was out of the ordinary, trying to help them relax, but they weren't. Tell us what happened with that.
Yeah, so I said to myself, I'm not sure that was one of the things that worked. But what you do is you end up going to different sources and trying to read about de-stressing activities and so forth. So there were times when we got together and we said, okay, let's all talk about we did a lot of prayer and stuff, but let's talk about a time or a song that we find inspirational. Let's go and learn how to do portraits of ourselves. So we did all of those kinds of things, and for some people it was a little bit too touchy-feely, and so you have to kind of watch that one.
Yeah.
And it was good because people got to journey inward a little bit while reaching out to others, because you have to realize that relationships are the things that really make us productive. If we have a good relationship with our students, if we have a good relationship with our peers and with our administrator, that is really the key. So that was really about building relationships, trying to redefine relationships. And so while, as I said, they were successful, there was no magic bullet with that, and you have to kind of watch, because again, going back to what you said, people are not always willing to share. So you have to be prepared for that too. So sometimes it's trying an activity and it works. Sometimes
it doesn't. It's a trial and error, I guess, because you're dealing with different personalities as well. And you have to find that common ground that will reach everybody and not go too deep. You don't want them to go too deep because, again, they're probably going to go back into that shell.
Right.
But I like the term that you used where it was a journey. Because I think you did a paint afternoon with them or something.
Yes.
Right? Almost like a professional development.
Yes.
But not focused on the academic and not focused on curriculum.
Right.
But more focused on the individual and having that moment to de-stress in this whole COVID pandemic.
Right.
And I do like the term that you use, a journey inward. I like that. And redefining the relationship. The relationships are very important. I've always stressed that. I'm always saying that. You have to build relationships with your students, with your staff, with your parents, for the whole journey to be effective. The whole teaching learning journey is very, very important.
I think that's one of the things too that have always linked us, Amanda. I think we're on the same page with a lot of things,
Yeah,
since we have the same beliefs about how we should be as teachers.
yeah. I read recently on Twitter, somebody made a comment on Twitter about effective teaching is about the whole learning process, right? And what you do in the class. But someone countered and said, well, relationships are also very important
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
because a student is not going to learn as effectively if they don't have a relationship with the teacher in the classroom,
Mm-hmm.
right? If they don't connect with you, it's going to be harder. It's
Absolutely.
going to be harder to reach that student, and it's going to be harder for the learning to take place. So relationships are important, and the teacher coming into the classroom has to have that sense of knowing that they are okay to be able to give, because you teachers give so much of themselves to the students. They just give. And how much can you give if you're not taking care of you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, so that's why I'm saying that the administrator has such an important role, because in a couple episodes I've had before, and people say teachers are great pretenders.
Mm-hmm.
um we hide emotions really, really well,
Mm-hmm.
and we can come to work and no one will think that something is wrong with you, or
Right.
something is going on behind this wall, right? Or behind the smile that they're seeing. So do you think it's possible for administrators to pick up on signals? I mean, how would you pick up on signals? What would you look for?
Okay. So it's good that you asked me that, because I will tell you that I'm not one to easily would pick up signals about how somebody's doing.
Hmm.
Because I, like a lot of teachers, was taught you leave your emotions at the door when
Yes.
you come in.
Hmm.
You know, I've been through a couple, not a lot of things in my life, but the stuff that I've been through just happened to be big,
Big things.
and
Yes.
so come through that every day, kind of saying, I'm not bringing this into the building, kind of thing. And we've been taught that.
Hmm.
And so on the other side, it's not easy for me to pick it up. These things have to be taught, unless you are a person who can sense this easily, and that's
Hmm.
your personality, and some people have a gift, they have to be taught. And if it's one thing that COVID-19 has taught me was, hey, you need to tune in to your teachers. You need
Right.
to read their body language. You need to ask questions all the time. You need to connect. And I think I connect very easily with them, but I'm not one to know, so and so is not feeling well today, or could tell. And COVID-19 has taught me. So now people come through the door, I look, I make sure somebody comes in. I remember saying the other day, she doesn't look well at all. That's
Right.
normally how she would style her hair. What's going on? And I would tell the counselor, you talk to her, you go see. So I'm telling you, unless you're doing a course or whatever, this pandemic has made you super aware of what's
Yes.
important and how to do it. Because again, I'm going to admit, I am not one of those who can pick up very easily. I kind of co-opt people around me who have that, to say, see if so and so needs something, kind of thing.
Okay.
Or they'll come and tell me,
Uh-huh. Hmm.
just so and so is so stressed today. I'm like, really? Stressed?
Because you're not seeing it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it, and people are good at hiding it. To I keep coming back to your point. It's something that we're not taught to do. So I would say again, educate yourself and just tune in. Just try to tune in. Just look at things, step back a little bit, even if that's not your forte.
Hmm.
Um, Talk with your own counselor if you have a counselor in the building, because counselors are there for students, but they're there for staff too. And that's something that I had to learn. The
Right. Hmm.
counselors will tell you, we're supposed to be in the building for anybody, who needs us.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you need to draw on their experience, and you need to encourage people. If you have a circle of people that you can trust to, confidentiality wise, that say to help you
Mm-hmm.
sense those things, because they are important, and they're important, and you want people to feel safe to say things,
Right.
keep confidentiality to, which I think most principals can do pretty well.
So do you think it's a good idea? Because I know you, in terms of administrators and okay, in terms of administrators and
Hmm.
the overall district levels and education system, do you think principals should be given the opportunity to learn through professional development and conferences and whatever, how to manage teacher stress, how to even look for signs of stress in teachers? Do you think it's something that they can
Yes,
look
I
at?
think I'm an advocate of that, and I'm a believer now. As I said before, I didn't see that as a primary role. I mean, I knew I have a responsibility for the health, the well-being of my staff, faculty, and students. I
Mhm.
do know that, but just I think that more training is needed. And many times it is kind of left to principals to say, "Hey, I want to go on this training," or
Mhm.
I would say to my superintendent. I think now, we have to depend more and more on just the principal, I guess, the fraternity that you may have,
Mhm.
say, let's advocate for this training. Um, Talk about it more, talk about our own health. Just recently, I spoke to one of my fellow administrators, and she talked about not doing well. She says, I feel like all my faculty's struggles and frustrations are sitting on my shoulders every day. I can't
Um,
get out from under it,
mhm.
and that's real. And I do feel like we need to put a little more funding into that.
Right. Even having that support for the administrators,
Hmm.
because as you said, your colleague is under, she's feeling the weight of all of this that's happening right now, and probably even more in her own life, and not being able to probably deal with it effectively, or
Hmm.
not knowing how to,
Right.
right? And luckily she reached out to you, she said something to you, but what about all the other administrators out there who aren't reaching out to anyone and who
Right.
might be going through something very similar? Right.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So it's not just the teachers that are feeling the strain of this,
Hmm.
the administrators as well.
Yeah. There
You
are
know, so,
administrators who are, talking to who are just, locking themselves in their office. I mean, not locking themselves in terms of, actually locking themselves.
they're kind of shutting the world out.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes, kind of, because trust me, I feel like literally locking myself in the office sometimes, because I have such an open door policy, that sometimes I'm like, you
Right.
so sometimes I really do feel to close the door. And I think it's because they're so busy trying to stay ahead. They might just close the door to do some work, and they're always, and people are, the teachers are looking at it as, oh, they don't want to
They
talk to me.
wanted out.
They don't want to. That's usually not the case.
Mm-hmm.
It is that they are always trying to be a step ahead. I'm always planning for the next month. I mean, in terms of what if this happens? What if this, but always trying to stay a month ahead. You have a general plan for the year, but then you
Right.
always want to be ahead. And so that takes a lot more time at your computer. And I think it's misread. So I've made the effort to be more present and have just the accessibility even more than I had before.
Than usual, right?
That's going to help teachers as well. That's going to help them feel like they can just come in, chat, or come in and say, tell me what to do. So
yeah, the administrative role is very important, but it's also very tough. I don't envy you. I did not go the route of being an administrator,
right?
But yeah, I can feel it. I can feel the struggles, that you all are going through as well. I mean, I've been under some really good administrators, and I've seen what they did, what they went through, and it's not an easy job. Maybe that's why I didn't go that route. I don't know, but yeah, but yeah, it's really important that the administrator tunes in, to the educators, to the faculty, to the staff, and try to understand what is happening with them and try to help them, put things in place to help them, whether it's just talking about that professional development in the school, that'll a couple hours in the afternoon, we do something together, where we get to talk and just to as you said, redefine that relationship and help build, the collegiality amongst the staff.
Right.
That will help them build, make the connections. And I think it's going to help with the release of the stress and managing their stress better.
Right.
Than they do now,
right.
Yeah, it's been great. All right, Allana, our time is up. And
we
can talk for hours.
Right. And I'm saying when you get into it, you realize there's so much.
It's so much to talk about.
Yeah, talk about. So right. I had, really good time kind of explaining what I did. It helps me to kind of sort of look back on what strategies really work. And it's been good. It's been pretty good,
Thank you.
Learn something.
Even though we had some technical difficulties in between, I'm going to blame it on the weather. Okay. Your cold weather and my cold weather put together.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, I'm ready for some warmth right now, but we can't go anywhere in COVID times.
Right.
Unfortunately. Right. Anyway, Allana, thank you so much for coming on. And thank you all who are viewing. I'm going to post it on the Facebook page so that anyone who didn't get to look at it now can look at it later on. It's going to be there.
Okay.
So they can see it. All right.
All right. Well, thanks again. And all the best to fellow administrators out there, but more so to teachers out there, because I'm first and foremost a teacher. And I think that's where I'm going to end my career, back in the classroom, because it's in your blood. It's in your DNA.
It's in your DNA. It's in mine too. And that's exactly where I'm ending, right? I'm back full circle.
Exactly.
Into the classroom.
Right.
So great.
Have a Merry Christmas, everybody, too. Take care.
Bye-bye. Okay, good night, everyone. Again, thank you for viewing. I will be posting this on the Facebook page. And with me tonight, I had Allana-Rae Ramkissoon, an administrator in North Carolina. So if you have not joined my, like my page, you can like my page at Empowering Teachers for Success, as we will be having more interviews coming up over the next few weeks and hopefully into the new year. So until then, have a good night and stay safe, everyone.